My father's voice was a low growl, sharp enough to slice through the tension in the room. "If you vanish tomorrow, Amelia, this family wouldn't crumble." The words hit me like a punch, stealing the air from my lungs. We were in the living room, the same one where we'd laughed over Christmas dinners and argued over trivial things, but now it felt like a battlefield. My mother, Lillian, wouldn't look at me, her eyes glued to the floor, her fingers twisting nervously. My sister, Violet, leaned back on the couch, her smirk cutting deeper than any words could. They'd just demanded I sell my yoga studio, Calm Oasis Studio, my heart and soul, worth $320,000, to cover my brother Owen's latest mess, a $280,000 debt from another failed startup. To them, it was nothing, just a number. To me, it was everything I'd built, brick by brick, breath by breath. I didn't yell or beg. I just nodded, my chest tight, my pulse thundering in my ears. That night, I packed a small bag, left the spare key to their house on the kitchen counter, and slipped into the night. No goodbye, no explanation, just a silent vow. I was done being unseen. How do you walk away from the family you've loved forever when they tell you you're worth nothing? How do you find the strength to choose yourself? Hey, I'd love to know. Where you're listening from, drop your city or country in the comments and let me know what time it is there. If this story resonates with you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of my journey. Let's dive in. My hands still carry the faint scent of lavender oil, a reminder of the mornings I spend at Calm Oasis Studio, my yoga sanctuary. I'm Amelia Carter, 32 years old, and that studio isn't just a business. It's my heart poured into every hardwood floor, every flickering candle, every deep breath my students take. 6 years ago, I started it with a small loan, a leap of faith, and a dream to create a space where people could find peace, even if just for an hour. I'd stay late, scrubbing mats, planning classes, perfecting playlists of soft chimes and gentle guitar. The studio's worth $320,000 now, but to me, it's priceless, a testament to every early morning, every aching muscle, every smile from a student who found a moment of calm in a chaotic world. Walking into Calm Oasis is like stepping into a hug. The air smells of lavender and eucalyptus, the light filters through sheer curtains, and the walls hum with quiet energy. It's where I've seen strangers become friends, where people cry, laugh, and heal. It's where I found myself, even when the rest of my life felt like it was slipping through my fingers. But my family? They never saw it that way. To them, my studio was a cute little hobby, something I could toss aside without a second thought. My dad, Thomas, is a man of sharp edges and louder silences, always quick to praise my brother Owen's big ideas while dismissing mine as small. Mom, Lillian, is softer, but her silence speaks volumes. She'd rather avoid conflict than stand up for me. Then there's Violet, my older sister, 35, with her sharp tongue and sharper smirks. She called my studio a hippie daydream once, laughing like it was a joke I wasn't in on. And Owen, my 27-year-old brother, he's the golden child, the one my parents pinned all their hopes on. He's charming, full of grand plans, tech startups, apps that'll change the world, ventures that sound dazzling until they crash. And they always crash. I've lost count of how many times I've bailed him out. $2,000 for rent here, $1,500 for essential equipment there, a few thousand to settle debts he swore he'd repay. Each time I told myself it was what family does. I wanted to believe I was part of their circle, not just a checkbook they could dip into. Looking back, I see it now, my blind spot. I wanted their love, their pride, so badly that I ignored the truth. Their affection came with strings. They didn't see me, not really. They saw what I could give them, what I could sacrifice. My studio, my stability, my dreams, they were all just collateral for Owen's next big shot. And I kept hoping, kept giving, until that Sunday when everything changed. The text from Mom came on a Thursday, short and sharp. Family meeting, Sunday, 2 p.m., urgent. My stomach twisted the moment I read it. I knew what urgent meant. Owen was in trouble again, and I was about to be dragged into the mess. I spent the next few days trying to focus on my classes at Calm Oasis Studio, guiding students through downward dogs and deep breaths, but my mind kept drifting. What was it this time? Another failed app? Another debt he couldn't pay? And why did I always feel like the one who had to fix it? Sunday came, and I drove to my parents' house, the same one I'd grown up in, with its tidy lawn and faded shutters. It used to feel like home, but now it was more like a stage, a place where we all played our parts in a tired family drama. Inside, the air was thick, heavy with unspoken demands. Dad sat in his armchair, his face carved from stone. Mom perched on the sofa, her eyes darting anywhere but at me. Violet was in the corner, scrolling on her phone, her lips twitching with that smug little smirk. Owen, of course, wasn't there. The golden boy never had to face the fallout. The small talk was forced, a few awkward sentences about the weather, until Dad cleared his throat. "Owen's startup," he said, his voice flat like he was reading a script. "It's hit a rough patch, needs a cash injection. $280,000. I blinked, my breath catching. $280,000? My voice was tighter than I meant it to be. "Dad, I don't have that kind of money just lying around." "Your studio," Mom said softly, still not looking at me. "It's worth more than that. You could sell it. You'd have some left over." I stared at her, my heart hammering. Sell Calm Oasis? My sanctuary, my dream, the place I'd poured 6 years of sweat, tears, and love into. "You're serious?" I said, my voice rising. "I built that studio from nothing. It's profitable. It's my life. You want me to dismantle it for Owen's latest failure?" "It's just a yoga studio, Amelia," Violet chimed in, her tone dripping with condescension. "Owen's on the verge of something huge. You could start another one. This is about family." Family. That word hit like a slap. I looked around the room, searching for a trace of the love I'd spent years chasing. "Family?" I said, my voice shaking. "Is this what family means to you? Expecting me to give up everything I've worked for? I've helped Owen before. Rent, debts, equipment, thousands of dollars, and not one thank you. And now you want my studio?" Dad waved a hand, dismissing me. "Those were small things. This is different. This is Owen's future." "What about my future?" I snapped, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "What about everything I've sacrificed? I've been the responsible one, the one you could always count on. While Owen—" "Enough!" Dad slammed his hand on the armrest, his face red, veins bulging. He leaned forward, his eyes burning with contempt. "Your little studio is nothing compared to what Owen could achieve. It's time you stepped up for this family." His voice dropped, cold and brutal. "If you vanished tomorrow, Amelia, this family wouldn't crumble." The room went still, his words hung in the air, sharp and heavy, like they'd sucked the oxygen out of me. My ears rang, my vision blurred, and for a moment, the polished wood floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. My own father, the man who'd taught me to ride, a bike who'd cheered at my high school graduation, was looking at me like I was nothing. Like every late night at the studio, every student I'd helped, every piece of myself I'd poured into my work meant nothing. I wasn't their daughter, their sister. I was a means to an end, a resource to be used up. The hurt didn't linger. It burned, fierce and white-hot, then settled into something else, calm, clear, and resolute. I saw them for what they were, a family that didn't love me, not really. They loved what I could give them, and I was done giving. "Okay," I said, my voice steady, Not in surrender, but in acknowledgement of the truth they'd just laid bare. I stood, my legs shaky but sure, and walked out of that living room, out of that house, out of the life I'd spent years trying to fit into. That night, I packed a single suitcase, clothes, a few photos, my favorite lavender candle from the studio. I scanned my business documents, bank records, and insurance papers, uploading them to a secure cloud drive. I changed every password, set up alerts on my accounts. This wasn't running away. This was a deliberate step, a line drawn in the sand. I left my apartment key under the mat and drove back to my parents' house one last time, long after they'd gone to bed. In the silent kitchen, I placed their spare key on the counter, next to a note that said only, "The studio is not yours to sell." By dawn, I was gone. The motel room smelled of stale coffee and cheap air freshener, a far cry from the lavender-scented calm of my studio. I sat on the edge of a stiff bed, 70 miles from the life I'd known, staring at my phone as it buzzed relentlessly. Mom's name flashed first, then Dad's, then Violet's. I let it ring, each vibration a reminder of the family I'd left behind. I wasn't ready to hear their voices, not yet. Instead, I sipped lukewarm coffee from a paper cup and tried to make sense of the quiet. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for their next demand. It felt strange, lonely, but also like I could finally breathe. I hadn't just run away. This was calculated, every step planned in the haze of that sleepless night. Before leaving, I'd locked down everything that mattered. I changed the passwords on my business accounts, set up alerts for any unusual activity, and backed up every document tied to Calm Oasis Studio. Leases, loans, tax records. My laptop hummed as I uploaded them to a secure cloud drive, each click a small act of defiance. I wasn't going to let them touch what I'd built. Not my studio, not my future. By morning, the voicemails started piling up. I listened to them in the motel's dim light, my heart heavy but steady. Mom's voice came first, trembling with practiced worry. "Amelia, where are you? We're so worried. Please call us." It sounded convincing, almost like she meant it. But an hour later, the mask slipped. Dad's voice was next, sharp and commanding. "This isn't funny, Amelia. Pick up the phone and fix this." Violet's was the worst, her tone laced with venom. "You're tearing this family apart, you know that? How could you be so selfish?" Selfish. That word stung, but it also clarified things. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about losing their safety net. The spare key I'd left on their kitchen counter, next to that note, "The studio is not yours to sell," must have hit them like a slap. It wasn't just a key, it was a message. I wasn't coming back to play their game. I was done. Their messages grew uglier as the day went on. Mom's fake tears turned to guilt trips. "I can't sleep, Amelia. How could you do this to us?" Dad's threats escalated. "You better get back here or you'll regret it." Violet took to social media, posting cryptic updates about family betrayals and people who think they're above everyone. "Else?" I could almost see her typing, that smirk plastered on her face, crafting a narrative to make me the villain. It hurt, but it also felt like validation. They weren't chasing me. They were chasing what I could give them. I knew I couldn't stay in that motel forever, hiding from their calls and my own doubts. I needed a plan, something solid to protect what was mine. That's when I called Catherine Lynn, a lawyer a friend from the studio had recommended. Her voice was calm, professional, a lifeline in the storm. I met her the next day in a small office that smelled of paper and coffee. Pouring out the story, Dad's words, the demand to sell my studio, the years of bailing out Owen, felt like unraveling a knot I'd carried too long. Catherine listened, her pen moving steadily across a notepad, and when I finished, She looked at me with a quiet strength. Your studio is yours, Amelia. They have no claim to it. But we need to be ready. They might not stop at voicemails. She was right. Catherine helped me dig through years of bank statements, emails, and texts, proof of every dollar I'd given Owen, every time I'd played the good sister while they looked the other way. There were transfers for his rent, his business, expenses, even a sketchy debt he swore was a one-time thing. Tens of thousands of dollars, all framed as family duty, all without a single thank you. Seeing it laid out like that, cold and clear, broke something in me. But it also lit a fire. I wasn't just protecting my studio, I was protecting myself. Sitting in that motel room, listening to the hum of the air conditioner, I felt the weight of it all. The loneliness was real, but so was the clarity. For the first time, I wasn't trying to win their approval. I was fighting for me. The meeting room was sterile, all polished wood and fluorescent lights, a neutral battleground where truths would either bury me or set me free. I sat across from my family, Catherine Lynn by my side, her calm presence anchoring me. My parents, Thomas and Lillian, sat stiffly, their faces a mask of wounded dignity. Violet was there too, arms crossed, her smirk replaced by a tight-lipped scowl. Their lawyer, an older man with tired eyes, adjusted his glasses, ready to play. His part. They thought they had me cornered, that I'd fold under the weight of their expectations just like always. But I wasn't the same Amelia who'd sat in their living room 2 weeks ago, nodding through their demands. Their lawyer spoke first, his voice smooth, painting a picture of a concerned family hurt by my sudden disappearance. He talked about family obligation, how I should sell Calm Oasis Studio to support Owen's promising venture, and even had the nerve to mention compensating them for the emotional distress I'd caused. Mom nodded along, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, the perfect picture of a grieving mother. Dad's jaw was set, his gaze hard, daring me to defy him again. Violet just stared, her impatience barely veiled, like this was all a formality before. I caved. Catherine didn't flinch. She leaned forward, her voice steady. Ms. Carter owns Calm Oasis Studio outright. It's her property, her livelihood, and she has no legal obligation to sell it. Then she turned to me, a small nod giving me the floor. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady as I opened the folder in front of me. This was it, the moment I stopped being their doormat. I've always believed in family, I started, my voice calm but firm, meeting their eyes one by one. I believed it when I helped Owen, over and over, because I thought that's what we do. But family doesn't mean sacrificing everything for one person while dismissing another. I slid a stack of bank statements across the table to their lawyer. These go back 7 years, every transfer I made to Owen or my parents at their request. Rent, equipment, debts, tens of thousands of dollars. No repayment, no gratitude, just more demands. Their lawyer's brow furrowed as he flipped through the pages. Mom shifted uncomfortably, her tissue forgotten. Dad's face stayed stone, but his eyes flickered. Violet's scowl deepened, but she didn't speak. I kept going. And here, I said, pulling out printed emails and texts, are the messages. Requests for money? Promises of repayment that never came? Dad calling my studio a little side gig. Violet saying it's cute, but not serious. You didn't just ask for help. You dismissed everything I've built. The air in the room grew heavier, but I wasn't done. Then there's Owen's business history, I said, sliding over public records I'd dug up with Catherine's help. His last 2 startups didn't just fail. They were flagged for questionable financial practices, investigations that mysteriously went away, debts that were quietly settled, and guess who covered those costs? I looked straight at Mom, whose face paled. Me! My money, funneled through you, to clean up his messes. A gasp escaped Mom's lips. and Dad's hands clenched into fists. Their lawyer looked up sharply, his glasses slipping down his nose. But the real blow was still coming. I took a deep breath, my voice steady, but laced with the quiet anger I'd held back for years. "And then there's this," I said, placing a final set of documents on the table. 3 years ago, you asked me to sign papers for a routine refinancing of your house. You said it was just a formality, a way to get a better rate. What you didn't tell me was that it was a $180,000 bank loan, and you used Calm Oasis Studio as collateral. The room went silent, the kind of silence that swallows everything. Mom's eyes widened, her hands trembling. Dad's face turned, ashen, his mouth opening but no words coming out. Violet stared at the papers, her confidence gone. Their lawyer grabbed the documents, scanning them with growing alarm. "You tied my studio, my life's work, to your financial mess without my full consent," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet. "You didn't just want my money, you gambled my future to protect Owen's failures." But there was more, the twist that even I hadn't believed until Catherine found it. "And these," I said, sliding over a final piece of evidence, "are emails between Mom and Aunt Carolyn. They talk about Owen's last startup, how he mishandled funds, your words, Mom, and how you needed Amelia's help to make it go away. You knew he was breaking the law and you used my money to cover it up, to keep his reputation clean while you pushed me to give more." Mom broke, a sob tearing from her throat, not from sadness but from exposure. Dad slammed his fist on the table, roaring, "How dare you drag this up? You're twisting everything!" But his voice cracked, his anger hollow. Violet looked like she'd been slapped, her eyes darting between me and the documents. Their lawyer whispered urgently to them, his face grim. They were done. Catherine took over, her voice cool and precise. Given the evidence, any attempt to pursue legal action against Ms. Carter would be baseless. We're prepared to protect her assets and reputation. Their lawyer nodded curtly, and after a tense, whispered exchange, he announced they were withdrawing all demands. No apologies, no remorse, just bitter silence as they gathered their things and left. I walked out of that room exhausted, my legs trembling, but something inside me felt alive, like a weight I'd carried for years had finally lifted. I hadn't just saved my studio. I'd reclaimed my voice, my worth, my life. Walking out of that meeting room, I felt like I'd run a marathon, my body heavy, but my heart strangely light. The fight was over, and I'd won, not just for my studio, but for me. Calm Oasis Studio was safe, its soft lights and lavender-scented air waiting for me to return. I poured everything I had into it after that day, investing in new equipment, hiring another instructor, even starting free meditation classes for the community. The studio didn't just survive, it thrived, growing into a haven where people came not just to stretch, but to heal, to find themselves. It was my home, my proof that I could build something beautiful, even after everything. My family faced the consequences of their choices. Owen's startup collapsed, no surprise there. And last I heard, he was scrambling to start over, still chasing the next big thing. My parents struggled with that $180,000 bank loan they'd tied to my studio, their financial house of cards wobbling without me to prop it up. I didn't feel smug or vindicated. It was just sad, in a way. Their world didn't crumble, just like Dad said, but it wasn't my job to hold it together anymore. Healing wasn't a straight line. There were nights I'd lie awake in my apartment, the silence pressing in, and I'd miss them. Not the family they were, but the one I'd wanted them to be. I'd see Dad's proud smile from my childhood, hear Mom's soft lullabies, remember Violet teaching me to braid my hair. Those memories ached like bruises that hadn't faded. But I learned something through the pain. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. Setting boundaries isn't about closing your heart. It's about opening it to yourself first. I found a new kind of family at Calm Oasis. There was Sarah, a student who became my best friend, always ready with a laugh or a coffee run. There were my instructors, who'd stay late to brainstorm class ideas, and my students, who shared their stories of loss and hope during meditation circles. They saw me, not as a resource, but as Amelia, the woman who'd built a space for them to breathe. That's what family means now. People who lift you up, who celebrate your light instead of dimming it. If I could go back to that Sunday, to that living room where Dad's words cut me open, I'd tell myself one thing. You are enough. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone, not even the people who share your blood. Your dreams, your work, your heart, they matter. And when you choose yourself, you're not walking away from love. You're walking toward it. Standing in my studio now, I can smell the lavender, feel the warmth of the sunlight through the windows, hear the soft hum of voices as students settle onto their mats. This is my world, built from my own hands, my own heart. It's steady, it's real, and no one can take it away. So I want to ask you, have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with someone you love? How did you find your peace after the storm? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if this journey spoke to you, don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep healing together.